I don't know if you've heard about this.
I have.
There are rumors everywhere. Where would a guy like, I don't know, Pete Alonso, Kyle Tucker, even Bo Bichette. So maybe we start with the two that have been talked about quite a bit because it relates to the Toronto Blue Jays, and then we'll get into Mr. Alonso here. Zach, do we have that clip from John Morosi about Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette?
We do.
So I want to start with this because I just think it's an interesting conversation. Kyle Tucker, Bo Bichette, two extremely talented bats. Blue Jays are willing to spend. Are they picking one or the other? Well, John Morosi has some thoughts. So let's react to that, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Kyle Tucker, Kyle Schwarber, who signs first? What do you think? Who's closer?
So here's my answer on that. Kyle Schwarber, I believe, will sign first. Neither one of them will sign this week. I think both of those signings, Schwarber and Tucker, feel like we're headed towards a winter meetings signing extravaganza, which, by the way, Lauren, we are there a week from today.
I can't wait.
The winter meetings will be underway in Orlando, Florida. So excited about this. I think with Schwarber being the older player and with his market being a little more set as the role that he has, I think Schwarber signs first, and then Tucker, Lauren, he is such an interesting case because the general industry thought is Tucker will likely not go back to the north side of Chicago, and so you wonder where might he go. The Dodgers with interest, the Giants with interest, and yes, the Blue Jays with interest. And Harold touched on this a little bit earlier on, too. I actually look at it as an either-or, Kyle Tucker or Bo Bichette. Here's why. If you sign Tucker, Tucker moves into right field, which certainly does complicate a little bit about Springer's role exactly, Santander's role, and more importantly, Addison Barger. He is an everyday player. So if you sign Tucker, Barger to third, Clement to second, Jimenez is your shortstop. And there's not really any room for Bo at that point. So I look at it as being an either-or situation. And we saw certainly the way that Jimenez played shortstop very well for the Jays in the postseason. But to me, the overriding question is, yeah, Tucker or Bichette help you if you're the Jays. But Addison Barger, Lauren, part of the future. I would not interrupt his number of at-bats too much because of how important Barger is.
All right,
So I agree with that last part. And also, if you are new to this channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We're live at 5 here on YouTube, X, and Facebook.
Cannot wait to see John next week, by the way.
We will see John next week down at the winter meetings. We will be down there in Orlando. But let's dive into this conversation because why I wanted to play the end of that clip is the dynamics of a roster. And with your young guys and players that you think can have this potential to take off, you want to make sure you give them the runway to take off. Barger proved last year that dude needs to play, and that dude needs to play often. And you could argue he would have been the World Series MVP had the Blue Jays pulled it off. He was that damn good. Kyle Tucker, Bo Bichette, the Blue Jays are going to be aggressive in the market for really, it seems like any big-time player. I kind of agree with John's assessment there. You sign Tucker, it really changes the dynamic of your team, and then you don't have room for both. But if you have Bo Bichette come back, well, Bo Bichette's going to play more likely second base at this point in time, and then that's how it goes. But what's fascinating to me is I do think the Blue Jays, I think it's theoretically possible that they land one of those guys. I think Toronto is in on landing those players. And I think personally, if you're Bo Bichette and you have a relationship with the team, you've come up with the team, you played with Vlad Guerrero Jr., you're loved there, I think that there's a legit chance he comes back. But what happens with Kyle Tucker? And I do believe Kyle Schwarber is going to be that first domino. And John mentioned that. Like last year it was Juan Soto, Brad.
Yeah.
When that happened, you're like, whoa, hey now, oh sugar. I think Kyle Schwarber is going to be the deal that gets figured out first, and then Kyle Tucker would be the next one off. I think that it will be in that order. I don't think any team signs Kyle Tucker unless they are so out on Kyle Schwarber, which my guess is why would you be if you're in the market, especially for a big left-handed bat? Am I missing something with that, Zach? Or you
No,
agreeing with me?
I agree. There's just it doesn't fit for the Blue Jays to go after both. Sign both. They're going after both. I'm in my head. I keep on going back and forth on which I think is better for the Blue Jays, and honestly, I'm not sure. Like it literally, it might come down to the fact of like, okay, hey, the familiarity of Bo Bichette in the locker room. He knows everyone. He fits well. All of that, because I mean, yes, he was injured in the playoffs. So this is a guy that he's got one of the best averages in the league over the past 3 years. I mean, this guy gets on base. He is a superstar. It would be really surprising if they both are like, hey, yeah, we're in. I would almost be surprised if they decided to go Tucker instead. I think both obviously slightly different skill sets, but I think for Toronto, it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like I feel like Bo Bichette is a catalyst for that offense. He's an RBI machine. He gets on base, does everything you want from him. Kyle Tucker's coming off of kind of a disappointing year. So for me, I think there's more risk because Tucker's going to get more.
Yeah.
You sign Tucker to a $400 million contract and suddenly he doesn't play well, or he is more the Kyle Tucker in the second half of last year. And you're sitting there going, oh, crap. And you see Bo Bichette, wherever he may end up, hitting 320, you're going to be like, crap, we might have messed this up. I just think safer route is for the Blue Jays. Just keep Bo.
Just keep him.
It comes between them.
Yeah. What are we doing? I mean, with the Blue Jays willing to basically talk to anyone and sign anyone that has any sort of talent, as we've seen over the years, why not just bring back your reliable guy who also has a great relationship with the rest of the ball club? And we talked about Guerrero Jr. and him came up together at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, keep that story rolling, man.
I mean, I think in this day and age, if you can become a legend with one team,
yeah,
and you have the opportunity and you love the place, and Bo Bichette, if you love Toronto, you go back to Toronto, unless you have aspirations to be elsewhere, because you've earned the right now to do that. But this is what fans love. If you're going to ask them right now, who would you rather have back from a fan's perspective? Some might say, give me the player Kyle Tucker. But my guess is most would say, man, give me Bo. We love Bo in Toronto. And I think that really matters to a fan base. And by the way, Bo would have also been the hero of Game 7 because him coming off being ready for the World Series, but not playing 100%, and to take Ohtani dead nuts right there, that felt like that was going to be the moment. He would have been beloved forever and ever there in Toronto. And I think maybe he thinks there's unfinished business. But the Blue Jays, you already have Dylan Cease on the books, right? So whoever you bring in, like just from a contract standpoint,
yeah,
it's a lot of money, but Bo Bichette would be the cheaper, it seems, of the two options, which then leads to the American League East in general. The American League, I think they're going to go after some bats, but it seems like the East really is eyeing in on these guys.
Yeah.
Kyle Tucker, I'm here in the National League out west. I'm still buying that the American League East is going to go and get some of these bats. I'm talking about the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays. Maybe there's a sleeper team in there. Could be involved. And one name that we haven't talked about yet that could be in the mix for a bat, because I don't think this sleeper team is going to get Kyle Tucker. I don't think they're going to get Bo Bichette. But what about Pete Alonso? And we're starting to hear these rumors set in for Pete. Well, Pete makes a lot of sense in Boston. Green Monster, playing for the Red Sox. They got a lot of momentum. Well, what if you put him over there in New York on the other side, playing with the Yankees?
Yeah. Set him to the Bronx.
Big bat, helps out Judge. Makes sense. Now, Toronto doesn't fit for him with Vlad Guerrero Jr. But then you're sitting there going, well, could there be another option in the American League East? And that team that's kind of sleeping there, that's still being attached, the team right here in Baltimore. The Orioles apparently are still in on Pete Alonso. Yeah, and you know what? But it's making people laugh and smile and throw up the what could happen here. It makes you think, could this realistically happen?
I will say this, even if it doesn't realistically happen, if you have a big bat, you hit a lot of home runs, why wouldn't you want to come to Baltimore? Obviously, the money has to make sense, but if you're Kyle Schwarber or Pete Alonso, you could rake here at Camden Yards.
I'm just saying, Boston here in my mind, unless they go a little Bananas,
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to sign both Bregman and Alonso.
No.
That would be
No.
Bananas. So one of them signs, say it's Bregman, because you had that commitment with Bregman before, and I think that was a good fit for Boston. And if I'm Alex Bregman, I think that makes a lot of sense to go back to Boston.
Yeah.
Because they valued him, and that was a really, really good, just overall seemed like a good experience for him. If they don't sign him, or sorry, they do sign Bregman, and you're the Orioles, Pete Alonso, you talk about you need a big bat. Pete's a big bat.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I know that batting average matters in the postseason. It does to me a lot. It really does. But you know what also matters to me is having a bona fide bopper. And I like Taylor Ward. I think he's going to play a good role here for the Orioles. But you're telling me that there's a guy out there that 4 of the last 5 seasons has had 90 or more RBIs. In 3 of the last 4 seasons, he's had 118 or more RBIs. That don't grow on trees. That's almost doubling the Orioles' average leader this past year. I think, what was the number, Zach? Do you remember off the top of your head for the Orioles last year? I think it was like 60-some RBIs.
I believe Gunnar had 62.
That's not a lot.
That is, you know what? I'll pull it up right here that quickly. When I move, you move. Well, at least I'll pull it up on my screen. 68. So if you double that, that's 136. And
Yeah.
Pete Alonso had 126 by himself. Hit 272. If he hits that, I think you can make the case he's even more valuable than Schwarber from a bat perspective. I think Schwarber from the whole clubhouse persona of what he is,
yeah.
there's a value there that you can't quantify. But Pete Alonso, man, talk about a game changer for your team. That changes how people would view the Baltimore Orioles in 2026. I would
100%.
say that would put them in a position to really be a dominant offense. But what do you do with the other pieces? Like,
Trade them.
But so
You trade them for pitching.
well, and that could be the option, Zach. I mean, there's no way Kobe Mayo and Ryan Mountcastle, in my mind, and Sam Basayo, something's going to give here before
Ryan
the season
Mountcastle
starts.
gets traded with like maybe a prospects that are attached to them, maybe a Heston Kjerstad. I don't know what's going on with Heston, but like somebody in that prospects field with Ryan Mountcastle for any starting pitching would make sense to me.
It's a fascinating conversation. And I want to reiterate this. Pete Alonso, I think, is undervalued as a bat.
Yes.
And that's crazy after what I said, but I still think people are looking at, he plays first, the defense is okay, or is he going to be a liability? How long is he going to hit? I am well aware of all of that, but what is his MO? He's going to bang.
Yeah.
He's a banger, Zach.
I mean, if you look at his percentiles from last year, he's actually had his best year for expecting on base average, expected batting average, expected slugging, expected on base percentage, hard hit percentage, bat speed. It just, everything was a career high. So it's not like he has regressed in the slightest. And then if you go to his expected home runs by park at Camden Yards, he was expected to have 45 last season. So a little lip up. Actually, I believe it's the 4th most that he would have been projected. Okay, I'm going to say 3rd most because I'm not counting the Athletics Little League ballpark where he would have had 56. That's kind of ridiculous. But Pete Alonso's a guy that you brought it up. Already there's a logjam at first base if you get a guy like Pete, that means in my mind that you are not signing a frontline starter and that you are going to the trade market for a starter, because at that point, why wouldn't you? You have 3 first basemen, right-handed first basemen that are kind of all repetitive of each other. It's like the potential, the guy you thought could reach Pete Alonso's stats and Ryan Mountcastle, and then Pete Alonso. It's like 3 different evolutions of players. You would have to get rid of probably Mountcastle and Mayo, because my biggest fear is with Mayo that they use him as just like a backup, and that could kill his.
He's way too talented for that.
Yeah, just do not do the, Kobe can play every 4 or 5 days, and that's going to be good enough. You can't do that to the kid. Give him playing time or get value for him. So, I mean, it would be awesome. Do I expect the Orioles to? No. I'm an Orioles fan. I cannot, until the ink is dry on paper, I would not believe that Pete Alonso was signed here. But it's a fun thought. I think it's a fun thought. I think there's a much better.
That would be the biggest free agent signing in Orioles history,
without a doubt.
Well,
not even close.
Well, for given the context of where they are currently, like as a team, of where they could go, because if we're going back, like Miguel Tejada was a big signing, but the Orioles.
I was talking like contract.
Yeah,
but
what was Miguel Tejada's contract?
Well, it wasn't $140 million.
Chris Davis
will still be the largest. I don't think Alonso is going to eclipse the $160 million that Chris got.
170. I think
a 3 or 4 year deal, and Alonso gets $30 million a year. I think that's
like
realistic.
140. I think 5-year deal or 4-year deal for 140 with the 5th year option. Might make sense, which I don't think sounds crazy, even if you're the Orioles. I mean, how much did they sign Captain General Soreness?
It's about 17 mil a year.
Okay.
So, by the way, here, Miguel Tejada signed a 6-year, $72 million deal, and that was for a big name free agent. He played at an MVP caliber level.
Yeah.
Pete Alonso would definitely be the most bold that they have done.
Ever.
The boldest move that they have done in recent past, honestly, in the last decade plus, had been acquiring Corbin Burns. I think that's up there given where the team was, but they didn't re-sign him.
Nope.
So the only way Pete comes to Baltimore is if you have a plan for the other guys that are taking up his spot. And if we're going to prioritize, I still think getting the pitching is more important than the bat. Here's
my plan. You get Pete Alonso, and you trade for Freddie Peralta. Brewer said that he's not available, but he's available.
That would be something, wouldn't it? I just have a hard time.
It would be the first pitcher they traded for the Brewers.
I know, but I really just want to see what they're going to do with Mountie and Mayo. Like, I can't fathom this situation. So adding Alonso into the conversation just confuses me.
Make him a DH. Just have a DH.
They've never done that as an organization.
I know, but they should.
I mean, that's a whole different conversation. If the Orioles change their philosophy, then bring them on in. But if you ain't going to change it, it ain't going to fit. But I'll say this. If Pete Alonso goes to an American League East team, that team to me will probably become the favorite in the AL East, and I would take them as the World Series favorite in the American League.
Yeah.
Because Pete Alonso, I think worst case scenario, goes to Boston or the Yankees, and guess what? Those teams are going to be lethal. If he goes to Boston, I would pick Boston to win that division.
Yeah, I mean, they were already a dangerous team last year, and then you had a big bat like that. I mean, good God.